Good evening, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Sunday, the 1st of March. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm going to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at CTM The Bigger Picture.subset.com, and it's published on YouTube after a delay of a week. All right, great. Obviously, it's been an eventful weekend, but let's have a look at the action last week. Obviously, the last day of February is, as I was talking about, likely to be a down day, and of course it was a down day, obviously with also the shadow of impending action in Iraq. Although I have to say I was a bit surprised when that kicked off yesterday. I had been watching what Trump had been saying, and he seemed to be indicating he was going to give it a couple of weeks, but wanted the element of surprise, I suppose. So the attack has happened, and that obviously changes things. But this, again, looks like a long sideways consolidation. In fact, you very rarely see a chart like this. This is the ES over 3 months, having basically gone nowhere. Trading effectively a range over that whole period. NQ been the weakest, and we've got a... would look like a bear flag if it was at the bottom of a trend, which it isn't. But this has been just, kicking around. We've got all the new weekly and monthly pivots. We've got a buy signal, I would note. I don't think that's going to make any difference because I suspect that the Iran thing is going to tank those and they will fail. But for what it's worth, we've got a buy signal on Q. We've got another one on RTY, week one that fixed on Friday afternoon. YM, we don't have anything. Retest this low, nice looking double bottom. Again, probably not going to play out. And DAX still looking for a retest of the high, still not made it yet. ESTX, we've got it's been making new all-time highs, possible 60-minute buy signal brewing, and Nikkei, we've got a 60-minute sell signal that's reached the possible near miss target. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And hang on. All right, I've been watching the daily middle bands, and obviously the daily middle band was recaptured on Wednesday and then just about held on Thursday and then lost it on Friday. That wasn't a surprise. This was actually a confirmation of the breakover. It could be that we're going to head back over tomorrow, but at the moment it doesn't seem that particularly likely. In terms of the hourly chart, no current divergence. The weak RSI 14 buy signal has reached the possible near miss target, and no current divergence on the 15-minute chart. This has just been basically a long sideways churn for the year so far. Not much to say. I mean, we did get a new all-time high in January, but basically, it's mostly sideways. All right, looking at the Qs, we again broke over the daily middle band, failed at the 50 EMA, and broke back below the daily middle band on Friday. I'm thinking that's got a decent chance of continuing down tomorrow. It doesn't look like the what might be described as the Epstein war is going particularly well so far. The Iranians haven't immediately caved, and they appear to be shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which has big implications on oil prices, which I suspect are going to spike very hard, but I'll get to that. All right, on Qs, on the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed, nothing on the 15-minute. Obviously, we've just been seeing a lot of trading sideways really since the beginning of February. Looking at Dyer, we lost the daily middle band on Friday, having been holding it pretty well until then. On the hourly chart, no current divergence. On the 15-minute chart, no current divergence either. Nice looking little level bottom here, but unlikely to deliver as Trump has used the weekend to likely tank the market for most of next week or more. All right, looking at IWM. IWM had lost the daily middle band as well. Hourly chart, no current. An RSI 5 buy signal is fixed, and the 15-minute chart, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed. We do have a pretty nice looking triangle here, but I'm concerned that's going to break down through the triangle support this morning. Although that could still turn into a larger bull flag of some kind. Looking at DAX, it was holding on to the daily middle band and still might. Nikkei a long way over the daily middle band as well. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, which has been fixed for quite a while on Nikkei. We've also got a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing. No divergence on DAX. All right, great. Let's have a look at the... Hang on, wait a second. All right, let's have a look at DX. Okay, DX, we've got a nice looking rising wedge here. That was breaking down slightly. We'll have to see what effect the this Iran thing is going to have on that, but this looks as though it might be about to break down. In terms of the others, let's have the other currency pairs. We've got USD, which kind of looks like a bull flag that's broken up. GBP which kind of looks like a bull flag breaking up. USD JPY, possibly an overall triangle. But to be honest, this has been there's too much been happening in Japan lately for this to be correlating that well with the others. Canadian dollar, this looks like a bear flag forming. Overall, I think there's the overall patterns here support a move down on the dollar and move up on all of the above, except for USD JPY and USD CAD, which positively correlates with the dollar. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And right. Okay, US dollar. Bigger picture, we've still got this nice looking bull flag. It hasn't failed yet. We've got a pretty decent looking double bottom here. Don't know if that's going to deliver anything, but we will see. It does kind of look like a bear flag forming in the short term. Might deliver another retest of the low. But basically, this last decline, we've retraced almost 50% of it. And obviously, we've been holding the daily middle band for a while now. All right, looking at USD, very nice overall bear flag, of course, still. Not a lot to say on the daily chart, apart from we've got a very nice looking rising wedge, which looks as though it might be breaking down soon, which would suggest, if it does that we may well be seeing the dollar break up. Okay, looking at GBP USD, again, we've got another bigger picture bear flag there, which again looks pretty nice. On the daily chart, no current divergence. Nice looking overall rising wedge here. Next obvious target would actually be wedge support, which is down here in the 1.92292 area. Obviously, that's not necessarily the way it's going to play out. USD JPY, still pretty close to a retest of this high here at 162, but it does appear that we got some fairly stiff government intervention the last time we were getting close to that. We will see whether that changes. Daily chart, nothing really to report. USD CAD, obviously we've been trading this fairly narrow, fairly sizable range, but narrow in the sense we've been in this range for 10 years now. Actually more like 11. So waiting to see if that's going to actually change, but I am wondering about a possible high retest if we see some more strength from the dollar. In terms of the daily chart, we had an RSI 5 sell signal that's now reached the possible near miss target. Okay, not a lot to say on Australian dollar. We have broken up over this big declining resistance on the Australian dollar, but it's not really obvious what pattern might be forming here. NZUSD, we got a big triangle here which was forming since 2020, and that is trying to break up, but finding resistance at the moment at the 50-month moving average. We will see how that develops. Yeah. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. All right, looking at ZB. ZB, we've seen a more move to the upside. Not a lot to say on these really. ZN more rally as well. Here, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts because that's where we see the picture better. Clearly, not necessarily, but better. All right. In terms of support here on yields, we are actually testing once again the monthly middle band, which has been pretty good support, and I've got that at 46.44. On the weekly chart, I'm wondering. It's kind of a triangle-y sort of feeling here, but the main thing I'm watching here is we've actually got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing, and I'm watching with interest to see if that might deliver. In terms of the TNX chart, not holding the monthly middle band here. In terms of the weekly chart, you can see we're forming a triangle and we're actually testing support on that triangle at the moment. This is a decent support area. We do also have a possible daily RSI 5 buy signal brewing here. I am wondering whether we might find some support here. We shall see how that develops. In terms of the short term, we did have an IHS which had broken up here, and that's now failed, and we're almost back at a retest of the prior low. So I was optimistic about that making target, but obviously it has gone the other way. All right, FVX, nice looking triangle here, might be starting to break down, which is unexpected. This was supporting the other triangle on TNX, of course. Looking at TLT, I'm now starting to take a little more seriously the bullish pattern we've got here. I've been showing this possible inverted head and shoulders for a year now, and I've not really been expecting it to amount to anything, but I'm starting to wonder if it possibly might. Nothing on the weekly chart, nothing really on the daily chart, no possible sell signal here, but you can see we are up in a pretty clear resistance area and waiting to see whether that will deliver. We've also just made this IHS target. This is the IHS which actually did make the target, and this little head and shoulders that broke down, which was the one I was expecting to make target, has now failed back up into a retest of the prior high. But actually we've got three inverted head and shoulders, and another double bottom here which broke up and made target. Overall, we're hitting resistance here. We have got possible buy signals brewing on TYX and TNX. I'm wondering about finding resistance on bonds here. Otherwise, this could go up significantly higher. We shall see. But we are testing, we're retesting the high here. We do have a potential level top. We've now fully retested this high at 90.82 on TLT. This would be an interesting area to reverse, and it might do that. We shall see. All right, looking at oil. Okay, now here we were testing in the anticipation and the run up into this Iran thing. We were obviously testing resistance. I think it was waiting for an actual invasion of Iran to take off, and obviously we have now seen that invasion, and I'm expecting it to take off. We will see how that goes, but I've got comments to say about this, and I'm going to be doing a post on this tomorrow morning. Talking about the targets here, because I think I've been talking about these for year and a half, 2 years, but now I think we might actually we head off to those targets and make them suddenly. HO was again testing the highs. RBOB was at the highs. NG, not really expecting to see a big boost here, and no particular reason to expect one, but might see a bit of a rally here. This could be bottoming action, although to be honest, it looked better a week ago than it looks now. All right, great. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And looking at WTech. Okay, bigger picture. Obviously, we've had the falling wedge. It's been forming from the high in 2022, and we've been watching for reversals pattern here. It's obvious what the reversal pattern here is, which is now that the wedge has broken up, and we've got a nice looking double bottom, and on a sustained break over 78.4, we'd be looking for a target in about the 101 area, or 101 to 102 area. I've got that actually in the 100.72 to 101.82 area. So we will see. I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to break up from it this week. And what I'm going to be talking about in the post tomorrow is, I was thinking that actually if this was, because obviously this was something which could happen anytime. It was a nice setup, just waiting for a good trigger. I was thinking that might be Russia. And we might actually get another big rally as and when there's big problems in Russia, I think, in a year or two. But for the moment, what we've got is a situation where the surplus of oil, basically, in the system at the moment is about 3 million barrels a day. Now, Iran supplies about 3 million barrels a day, so you'd think that actually that could be absorbed. But the problem is not what Iran is supplying into the market. The problem is the amount of oil that comes through the Straits of Hormuz. Straits of Hormuz, I'll get various numbers between about 13 million barrels a day and 20 million barrels a day. For reference, approximately 100 million barrels a day are used. So you've got pretty close to, you got 15 to 20% of the overall world oil consumption, which goes through the Straits of Hormuz. Now, the insurers today were notifying shippers that they were basically moving over to wartime insurance rates for anyone going through the Straits of Hormuz. That basically makes it impractical from an economic point of view, and the Iranians are quite deliberately, for the moment, shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is going to cause if this lasts more than a few days, this is going to cause a very significant squeeze as the amount of oil available in the world markets drops considerably below usage. And this is the sort of thing which actually traditionally, of course, leads to big oil spikes. Where could that oil spike go? Well, as I said, here I've got a target in the 101 to 102 area. Bigger picture. Well, honestly, this could be a bull flag. It looks kind of like a bull flag. If you look at the amount of retracements here, it got back almost to the 61.8. And if we see the Straits of Hormuz shut down for a while, this could go back and hit 126.42. I wouldn't be astonished to see that. So watching that with interest, but the first target would be sustained break over 78.4, would be to get back to 101, 102, and then see where we went from there. Okay, let's have a look at heating oil. All right, heating oil, we have the same pattern. Could this be a bull flag? Yes, although it came out down a little below the 61.8, so it's not as nice a bull flag as the crude oil one. In terms of the pattern here, we've got an IHS, and it broke up late last week. No, middle of last week. So we have actually broken up here already with a target in the 3.7 area. And I think there's a pretty good chance it could make that target. Could it go higher? Yes. Again, could this be a bull flag with a target at 4.47? Potentially, yes. We will see. If so, it's going to cause some pain. One of the few bright spots about the US economy has been that actually oil prices have been rather suppressed over the last year. And that's one of the big things that are going to happen if we see a lot of upward pressure on oil prices. And the other thing is that the Russians have been suffering from the low oil price, and it's been causing them significant problems. If oil prices head up through the roof, actually, that's a major boon for Russia, depending on whether they can actually ship out and if they can actually get their oil to customers. But potentially, this could give the Russians another lease of life in the war with Ukraine. All right, looking at gas oil, again, we've got the same falling wedge. Could this be a bull flag? Yes. Again, it's slightly below the 61.8. Here, the original wedge actually expanded. We got down here. We underthrew. I was noting this could be a head and shoulders breaking down with a target down here, but I was saying I wasn't taking it seriously, and I wasn't. I have still got the arrows there. It hasn't failed yet. It would fail on a move back over 2.38, which is both the head and shoulders right shoulder and also double bottom resistance. Now, if we break up from that, then where would the target be? Sorry, I haven't actually worked this one out yet, but the minimum target, where would that be? Wait a second. Minimum target would be in about the 2.85 to 2.9 area. And that would be up in this area. Again, if this is a bull flag, could take us all the way. This is not going to be very popular as with anyone keen on affordability in the US. This would be a big spike, and it would be entirely due to this adventure in Iran, which really the obvious explanation for why it's being done is most likely just to try and distract attention from the Epstein files, I think. So we'll see how that goes. But I think at the moment, the Iranians aren't caving, and they're shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. That is what could cause a very, very big increase in oil prices, and we will see how that develops over the next week. Okay, looking at natural gas, not really seeing an awful lot here. We are well below, and we closed well below the monthly middle band. This has obviously this was very good support all through 2025. And now that we are breaking below it, could be we're going to reject back above, but I'm not seeing much reason to think that might be the case. I think the obvious thing to do is to get back into this rising support, currently at about the 2.55 area, and then to potentially break down with the target and retest this low here at 1.686, I think. Yes. So looking at the daily chart, we do have a weak RSI 5 buy signal fixed. I am thinking we might see a bit of a rally. Bigger picture, I'm thinking we've likely got more, further business on the downside. All right, great. Let's have a look at metals. The metals are creeping higher here, and with the with the uncertainty of the Iran, whatever it is, it's not an invasion exactly. let's call it a special military operation. So seeing how, depending on how the Iranian special military operation goes, obviously we may see a significant flight to safety, which doesn't look as though it'll benefit crypto, but it should benefit both precious metals and bonds. And we will see how that develops. So we may well see that we see a spike back up into retests of the highs here. Tomorrow we will see. Silver, that's a shame because this kind of looked like a bear flag, but it may be that this is going to see a big boost as well. Same with palladium, which again looks like a bear flag. Same with platinum, which again looks like a bear flag. Copper, this hasn't. This is. I've obviously I've rolled both of the bonds. I've rolled silver and palladium and copper and lumber all into the next month. So I've rolled practically everything over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So here on copper, we've been forming what looks an awful lot like a triangle here. And actually, when we went up and broke up slightly beyond my ideal classical triangle resistance trend line, we didn't take out this high here, and we didn't take it out on the new contract, as well as having not taken it out on the old one. So at the moment, this could still be a triangle, but obviously if we see it boost up through that, then we're forming something else, although that could be, of course, a bear flag. Quite often you find triangles do break up, do widen into flags. Okay, looking at, hang on, wait a second. Right, bear with me a moment. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture on metals. Okay, looking at gold. I don't think the bull market is over. I'm not seeing any much to suggest that it is over, but I am thinking we may well be entering a period of consolidation. If we do see a retest of the high, I'll be wondering if that is the second high of a double top. On the weekly chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal already fixed, and we've got a lot of these signals across the precious metals. Nothing on the dailies. Here, I'm thinking could be A, B, C with more downside coming, but again, we could retest the high here, and we'd have a potential double top here. Now, I wouldn't be expecting to make that double top to make target if it broke down, but what it could do is break down and then fell back up into the highs, which is basically making it a continuation pattern of a kind. All right, looking at silver again, no negative divergence on the monthly chart, but on the weekly chart, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got a full-size RSI 5 sell signal fixed. Again, I'm thinking we may well be setting up for a larger consolidation. Again, I'm wondering about a possible retest of the high under the right circumstances, and this Iraq adventure may well provide the right circumstances for that. On palladium, on the weekly chart, RSI 14 sell signal fixed, RSI 5 sell signal fixed. On platinum on the weekly chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed and an RSI 5 sell signal fixed. I think there is a pretty good case for a decent consolidation here, and metals do like to consolidate every so often. If we see big boosts this week, could see high retests, those could be the second highs of double tops. All right, look at copper. Copper, obviously we reached a big long-term resistance trend line here, and we went through it slightly, and that could be a bearish overthrow. Watching that with interest. We don't really have much in the way of weekly negative divergence on here. We have got a daily RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and we're forming a potential head and shoulders here, and could see more downside. There is a question in my mind about, there's a question in my mind about how long the AI bubble has left. But there's also a question in my mind about if there continues to be intensive building out of data centers, how much copper is that going to require, and how much support will that give copper prices? All right, looking at GDX, we've got a weekly RSI 14 sell signal fixed here too. Weekly RSI 5 sell signal fixed on GDXJ. On GDX. GDXJ, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed and an possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing as well. But apart from that, this is actually quite different. We've gone back up, and we've already made higher highs on both GDX and GDXJ. These don't at the moment look like double top setups, and I suspect, subject to what's happening on equities tomorrow, that we're probably going to see more upside on these in the near term. So we will see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at the other commodities. All right, KC could be bottoming out here for a rally. 60-minute buy signal fixed. Hasn't really delivered much for a rally so far, but we'll see. SB, nice little rally here, might be topping out. 60-minute sell signals reached the possible near miss target. On CC, we've got nice looking decline trend line here, which has taken it below 3,000. We're getting down into an area where I'm wondering whether we might start finding some decent support. No obvious sign of that happening so far. We've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed, but obviously that hasn't delivered anything so far. On CT, possible head and shoulders forming, which I'm watching with interest. On lumber, I've rolled this over into the May contract, which is why the data is looking a little thin. This isn't one of the more thickly traded contracts, really. But we've broken up slightly over this declining resistance, and I'm wondering if we might see a bit more of a rally. We have a 60-minute buy signal fixed. On wheat, I've got more to say about this. I've been redoing the wheat charts because I was talking about a possible sizable rally coming on corn and wheat this year, and not really seeing it on corn, but we are seeing a big boost on wheat and soy prices. So I want to talk more about that, and I was updating my charts to talk more about that, so we'll get to that. All right, in the short term, an hourly RSI, an hourly sell signal has fixed on the wheat. On corn, still looks like a bear flag forming. On soy, still making new highs. Soybean oil, still making new highs as well. Here, we've got a rising wedge, which is broken down, and we could be topping out for a larger retracement. I've drawn in a possible head and shoulders neckline, which looks interesting. And on HE, we've got, we had a nice looking rising megaphone that's broken down, retraced almost 50%. And we could be heading back to a retest of the high, in which case we could be setting up for a larger retracement, or we could just continue higher, having set up a less steep support trend line. But this, at the moment, could still be an ABC down, but I am wondering about a retest of the high. Okay, let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts. All right, coffee. Coffee, we have this nice looking little level top here that broke down, made target area more or less, and we're now testing the bigger support level down in the 2.8 area. At the moment, that's not broken yet. No positive divergence on the weekly chart. We do have a weak we've got a full-size RSI 5 buy signal fixed here. For some reason, I put that down as a weak one, so I'll just correct that now. So we've got a nice RSI 5 buy signal. I am wondering about a rally here. Bigger picture, we're still outside where I would normally expect this to trade, although we're getting back to the top, towards the top of it, which would be basically 2.6 here. So once we fall back into the longer term ranges, I'll be thinking we may well find some support, as I'm thinking on cocoa at the moment. All right, looking at sugar, still wondering about a move down into a in this head and shoulder target in the 9 area. We do have on the monthly chart a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. On the weekly chart, we've got a bit of positive divergence on the RSI 14, and on the daily chart, nothing really. But I am wondering about this as potential bottoming action for a rally. All right, looking at cocoa, cocoa has finally fallen back into the longer term comfort range. It's at the top of it, but it is actually, well, it's not near the top of it, but it's in the it's towards the top of that range, which basically runs between about 1400 and about 3900. This very, very long triangle that took a decade or so to form. So we've, after the breakup, we have come back down and we're back into that triangle area. We're basically back at the area where it broke out of the triangle. Still couldn't go lower here, but we don't need to make these target areas down here. This is too large to be a real target in my view, as I was saying when it was forming. But we will see how it goes. But I am wondering about finding some support here. We have, on the daily chart, we've got a possible weak RSI 14 buy signal brewing, got a possible weak RSI 5 buy signal brewing. Not the nicest looking buy signals. I don't have a solid support trend line, but I am wondering about a rally. All right, wheat. Now, I've done the chart here to show you what I was talking about when I was saying I thought that we might see one of the star turns this year for being wheat. Now, I couldn't see any obvious fundamental reason why that would be the case. So I didn't really talk a huge amount about that, but I was talking about it and saying this was a possibility. And the reason I was saying that was obviously we had this very big bear market from the 2022 high, and it fell a very, very long way, came down from about 1300 down to under 500. And we've got two little level bottoms here. We've got it on a sustained break up over 617. We'd have a target which was basically up in about the, what would that be? About the 735 area. And if we saw a sustained break over 720, then we'd have a minimum target there in about the 915 area. There is a lot of potential upside here. We did have a weekly buy signal that's already made target on the dailies. No current negative divergence, but you can see having made this double bottom target, having broken out of this lower area, you can see that I am wondering about a move up here. One thing that troubles me is I'm not aware of any particularly good reason to think that we would see this was my concern about this. I couldn't really see the fundamentals for having a lot of upside here, but at the moment, that's what we're looking at, and this is the setup. And actually, it's nice. It is nice. Not quite as nice as the one on oil, but it's nice. We will see how that develops. In terms of corn, we've also got, I was saying that corn could have a very good year, and look at this. So the big move down from the 22 high, and we got this beautiful level bottom here. What we've not been seeing actually is much movement, and we weren't seeing much movement on wheat for months either. But at the moment, this is us breaking back over the weekly middle band, and we are seeing a bit more action to the upside. If we see a break higher here, then a sustained break up over 504 could get us back up into about the 640 area. That would be a big move. We will see how that develops. All right, looking at the daily chart, no current divergence. And if this isn't a bear flag, I'm wondering about a retest this high here, at which point we've got a choice of could start a larger retracement or could continue higher. We do have an IHS which has broken up and has not been invalidated with a target in about the 495 area. All right, looking at soybeans, no current divergence on the weekly chart. Obviously, we broke out of this lovely bear flag a while ago, which I was a little sad about. We saw a big decline from 1160 to 1022, and we're almost back up and retesting that high. Could that be the second high of a double top? Yeah. But it's oversized. I don't like it. I don't like it particularly. And it's not something I'd normally be taking that seriously. In terms of the daily chart, we've got a possible weak RSI 5 sell signal brewing, but it would be easy to lose divergence just as we lost divergence on the daily chart. All right, looking at cotton. Cotton, we still do have a very nice looking double bottom here. This is like wheat, like cotton, very nice looking potential patterns here. I mean, on soybeans, what we're missing here on soybeans is a nice looking reversal pattern. I mean, we could go a little higher for an IHS. There are options here. But obviously, the great thing about a bear flag is it generally delivers a low retest. And if you're setting up a reversal pattern, then, well, that's a pretty good time to do it. What we're missing here is a pattern which shows a path higher. Cotton's got that. We see a sustained break up over the 73 and 73.5 area, and we could get a very nice move up into about the 88 area. That would be pretty solid and a very nice move, and the logical end of this nice falling wedge and setup here. So I'm wondering about that too. Daily chart, we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fix, and might see some more downside. Not been seeing a lot of action either direction, really. Lumber, now we had a double bottom here, which I was showing on the hourly chart. I didn't bother updating it on the new chart because obviously it's already failed. But I was saying that if that failed, I'd be expecting that to resume the downtrend, because here we have a beautiful 3 years and rising years of bear flag forming, and we've also got a double top here which is broken down. That's got a target in about 355 area, and the bear flag target would be in about 352 area. This is a very nice setup which just hasn't been doing anything. So it would be nice to see that break down and head down to make that target, because that could be the second low of a double bottom as and when we get there. All right, great. I'm going to have a look at crypto. So bear with me a moment and let's have a look at that. Okay, looking at Bitcoin. Not a lot happening over the weekend. I was wondering about a move up here. I'm thinking this could be a bearish triangle. At the moment, it's looking pretty triangular actually. And sooner or later, I'm thinking we could do some more upside, but we wouldn't need to. But sooner or later, I'm expecting this to retest this low at 60.1. Looking at Solana. This could be. Pretty sure that could be a full flag, couldn't it? 92.09. Yes, 91.21 here, 92.09. This could already be a decent bear flag, but ideally it would go a little higher. Sooner or later, I'd be expecting that to retest this low here at 67.65. Again, these low retests could be double bottoms as and when they're made. Ethereum, again, we saw a higher high here, 2146 over 2105. This could be a bear flag forming, and sooner or later, I'm expecting this to retest this low here at 1746.93. We shall see how that goes. All right, great. In that case, that is everything. Should be an exciting week. Depending on how the new Iran/Epstein conflict goes this week, I'm thinking it's likely to be negative for equities and very, very, very positive for oils. I'm thinking we could actually make those targets and potentially get back to, well over 100 on oil within 2 or 3 weeks. It needn't take long. And if the Iranians shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the things that people who like cheap oil have nightmares about, then obviously it could be very fast and very hard. We will see what the playback is. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys on Wednesday.